This is Myra Elaine on the Buying Space channel. I'm continuing my four Gospels Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I'm in Luke chapter 11, starting in verse 37. As Jesus was speaking, one of the Pharisees invited him home for a meal. So he went in and took his place at the table. His host was amazed to see that he sat down to eat without performing the hand washing ceremony required by Jewish custom. Then the Lord said to him, "You Pharisees are so careful to clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside you are filthy, full of greed and wickedness. Fools, didn't God make the inside as well as the outside? So clean the inside by giving gifts to the poor, and you will be clean all over. What sorrow awaits you, Pharisees, for you are careful to tithe even the tiniest income from your herb gardens, but you ignore justice and the love of God. You should tithe, yes, but not neglect the more important things. What sorrow awaits you, Pharisees, for you love to sit in the seats of honor in the synagogues and receive respectful greetings as you walk in the marketplaces. Yes, what sorrow awaits you, for you are like hidden graves in a field. People walk on them without knowing the corruption they are stepping on. Teacher, an expert in religious law, you have insulted us too in what you just said. Yes, said Jesus, what sorrow also awaits you experts in religious law, for you crush people with unbearable religious demands, and you never lift a finger to ease a burden. What sorrow awaits you, for you build monuments for the prophets your own ancestors killed long ago, but in fact you stand as witnesses who agree with what your ancestors did. They killed the prophets and joined in the crime by building those monuments. This is what God in his wisdom said about you. I will send prophets and apostles to them, but they will kill some and persecute the others. As a result, this generation will be held responsible for the murder of all God's prophets from creation of the world, from the murder of Abel to the murder of Zechariah, who was killed between the altar and the sanctuary. Yes, it will certainly be charged against this generation. What sorrow awaits you, experts in religious law, for you remove the key to knowledge from the people. You don't enter the kingdom yourselves, and you prevent others from entering. As Jesus was leaving, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees became hostile and tried to provoke him with many questions. They wanted to trap him into saying something they could use against him. They were already doing that. They were already trying to ask him questions that if he answered wrong, then they would have accused him. Jesus is saying here that they are holding people to the letter of the law. I have a bachelor's degree in criminology, And when laws are written, they aren't perfect, whether they're civil laws or whether they're um, the things like the oral Torah. And what I mean by oral Torah is it's been said that when Moses was up on the mountain with God, receiving the law, the covenant, the old covenant, that those things were written down that were in the old covenant in Exodus 21:23. And that while Moses was on the mountain those 40 days, he was talking to God. And God told him some additional rules and laws and covenants, not a major covenant, but like the old covenant and the new covenant. But there was conversation that was had. And later, this oral Torah was passed down from Moses to Aaron's son, to the rest of the Levites, generations after generations. And it was written down in the Talmud. But that was after the temple was lost, that it was written in the Talmud. But these Pharisees and Sadducees, they would never give the people a break. They would have these crushing laws beyond the 613 laws that were written. Like, I've heard from Jewish people that they consider work on the Sabbath putting in your false teeth. So if you've put in your false teeth on the Sabbath, you've violated God's law. And if your scalp is itching and you scratch it, that is work. Just to, give your head a little scratch if it's itching. Okay? But they're saying that the dandruff falling off is not a sin. Well, how is the dandruff going to fall off? You don't scratch your head if you got dandruff. You might just have a little itch like I do, like right here, because it's morning and I'm just acclimating to life. But these Pharisees, since the temple was destroyed in AD 70 or 73, put it in the chat if you know what year the temple was destroyed. But anyway, since then, there haven't been technically Pharisees or Sadducees. They did not survive as a group, I don't think. If I'm wrong, if you're a Pharisee or Sadducee out there, let me know. There are some Sumerians who are still alive in small pockets around Israel, or maybe technically in Israel. But they were not following what the Pharisees and Sadducees had to say. Matter of fact, the Samaritans ended up the way we worship now after Christ came and died and was resurrected and ascended to heaven. We basically worship the way the Samaritans did. And the Pharisees and Sadducees were against the Samaritans, that they didn't worship right. Well, they worship the way we do now, as far as the old law. And, we don't go to a temple because there's no temple anymore. So all the Jews are now like worshiping the way the Samaritans did in Jesus's time. And there are several encounters in the Bible where Jesus runs into Samaritans. We covered a lot of those recently in our Sunday school class. I may share some of those with you in the future to show you how they worshiped, because how they worshiped in Jesus's time is more close to the way we worship now. And it's just kind of amazing. They were a mixture of Jewish heritage, obviously, because they worshiped Yahweh, and Assyrian culture. They merged. Most Hebrews back in that time did not marry someone who wasn't Hebrew. But they did. They married Assyrians and created a culture that was apart from the rest of the Hebrews, but right next to, they were neighbors to the Hebrews that would have listened to the Pharisees and Sadducees and gone to temple. So I'll tell you more about that later. Maybe that information will be, no, it have to be on this series on Wednesday night. I might start talking a little bit about the Torah, not the oral Torah, but the real Torah, and the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, which are the 5 books of the Old Testament. The Jews call it the Torah, and the Greek Orthodox call it the Pentateuch. So I may talk some about the Pentateuch in my Gospel series to show how the Old Testament, or the Torah, is all about Jesus. So I look forward to delving into that later, and I hope you all want to learn more and see the wisdom in what Jesus said here. It's not about the implication or direct implication of the law. It's about the spirit of the law. Why was this law made? Why are we extending this to ad nauseum to other things to control people? That's basically what the Pharisees and Sadducees did, and lots of religious leaders, not just Jewish religious leaders, try to do to people today, or definitely in the last 50 years. So hopefully we get to delve into that a little bit more later. And you all have a wonderful and blessed day.